they raised some issues that Iran is not observing human rights. I asked him two questions about Holocaust. And two questions, those two questions question the whole human rights system in the West. They're crying, they're shouting, Israelis are shouting, people in the West are shouting, and some people say Iran's dignity is being questioned. How is that? How can you say that? How can we wait for the enemy to come to our soil and then try to confront him? Today the threat is not directed at Iran. Of course, all this is thanks to people's steadfastness and the sacrifices of the great nation of Iran and the leadership. And I'm surprised Mr. Mussawi, if he takes a trip outside of Iran, he can see how he's greeted by and world nations. How many foreign visits did he make as Prime Minister? Was Iran humiliated then? We were also respected then, but in the eyes of bullying powers, it was not so. If Mr. Mussawi thinks that we should try to favor and please 3-4 major powers, this is against the late Imam's ideas and the values of the Islamic revolutionary independence. If we're going to have ties with great masses of people and governments around the world, a great number of foreign dignitaries and personalities traveled to Iran in the past 4 years. 118 members of the non-aligned movement supported our
Mr. Ahmedinejad, your time is over.
Mr. Mussawi, I want to tell you that I really like you, but you say that you are worried. I have a question for you. During Mr. Hashemi's government, the inflation rate was 49.5%. $49 billion was what we had as foreign debt at his time. Social crises were hitting many of our major cities at that time. A large number of people got killed. Didn't you feel worried at that time when sanctions were imposed? $20 million. Any country that had a contract with Iran over $20 million then was going to be boycotted, and the inflation rose to almost 50%, and you were not concerned at that time. During 18th of Tir, there was a movement that was going to capture Tehran and move toward the government centers, and they were supported from outside, and they were going to have what they call velvet revolution. You were not concerned then, and when in the Islamic Council of Assembly, the 6th Parliament actually, they staged a sit-in, and from there they contacted the U.S. Congress and asked them for help. How come you were not concerned at that time?
Mr. Ahmedinejad, your time is over.
We have 45 minutes. Why can't we speak 2 more minutes now? Weren't you concerned then? Today you're talking about why we mentioned Holocaust. I have my question. Why not raise the issue of Holocaust? Why should we wait for Europeans to come and talk about human rights in our country? Why should we tell them that they have no freedom, that they are exploiting other nations, that they are suffocating world people? Foreign policy of this government stems from people. It rises from the Imam's values, and it brings dignity. You can see that for yourself. The world can see that. How could they retreat, and how can you call this? The red line was the UN Security Council. Okay, the UN Security Council had its resolutions and they had their sanctions. What happened, and what can they do now? Can we be lenient toward arrogant powers? How is that possible? In Tehran, they wrote articles that the time of the late Imam is gone, is over. You announced, you kept silent. The then government supported that person who wrote that article. You kept silent, and now you're saying that we're deviating from the Imam's path. I like you, but I cannot forgive the insults being directed at a nation.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ahmedinejad and Mussawi, please.
Well, you talked about the Imam's line or path. Let me just narrate a memory from those days. Once, Israelis attacked South Lebanon, and inside the country there was a unity or consensus that we should dispatch forces to expel them from Lebanon and fight side by side by the Lebanese. And the Moti Himmet had to lead the forces, and there were some forces for the deployment of the forces to study in Lebanon. The night before we had to send the forces, we had a meeting of the three heads of the branches of the government, and then Moti Himmet came and said, Imam has said the way of Quds goes through Karbala. That is, you have to concentrate on your war. You have nothing to do with sending or dispatching forces to Quds. So, you know, we are talking to the government on the same topic. You know, the system decided to say that in order to be compatible with the international norms and follow up its objectives regarding Israel, we should say that we agree with the return of all Palestinian people and even those who have been expelled from Palestine, and then Jews, Christians and Muslims vote in order to determine their own fate. It is compatible with international norms and law. In other places also they had the same mechanism in the former colonial powers, and they change their fate. When on the basis of our extremism and our individual influence we go beyond that, and you know, while this slogan has been raised for 20 years, and then we go beyond this slogan, then calamity starts, disaster starts, and then instead of isolating Israel, we depict it as an oppressed. In Dublin and in Switzerland, indeed, the Europeans after Gaza were against Israel and were issuing resolutions against it, and they had their own stance. But because our mistake in those two places, because besides inflicting damages on us, all of them gathered just backed Israel. IPAC, you know, the greatest Israeli institution in the United States, considers this as an advantage for itself. What I say is we should not be imaginary and imaginative in international arena. We should be pragmatic. We should go on the basis of deliberation. The problem that I have with these the issues is not on the basis of is not regarding the long-term issues or long-standing issues. You know, see whether the foreign policy, the foreign ministry experts acknowledge this policy. Either in the foreign ministry or in the universities would not acknowledge this policy. We don't have a few examples. We have a number of them. In my election campaign, I have said that where we have extremism, then we go to the extreme, to the other way, to the other side of the spectrum. You know, when we just talk about Holocaust, we don't calculate the cost and the benefits, and we don't know whether we are getting to our objective. And then after these issues, then the deputy says that we are friend of Israeli people, and then saying that after those problems we are friends of Israel in order to create a balance, and then he doesn't withdraw from his stance, and after there are a lot of protests, and then even then he is not removed. I say that this viewpoint is against that extremism, and similar thing happen in our economic affairs and other affairs, and there are a large number of them. Let me give other examples, although I don't want to talk about the Persian Gulf and then going to Qatar and to United Arab Emirates, because they inflict heavy damages on us.